Welcome to my channel. Right now you are in the right place. Hey everyone, I'm Juliet Migwi. Today I'm coming with my biggest ever creation. I'm creating a wall art, an African wall art, using these massive canvas base, wooden, custom made 120 centimeters by 90 centimeters for a client for wall hanging. We're going to use these African beads. These are like neck pieces or cufflinks, other cufflinks or wrist bracelets. We have some neck pieces, and this is another Maasai neck piece. We're going to use some African beads, white. We're going to use some mica powder, iridescent white, and resin to create this piece, and not forgetting our Maasai fabric. I'm going to weigh down using these marbles. I can't wait to show you, but to begin with, what I'm going to do is create the corners with fabric and Mod Podge to hold down before I can use the resin. And also at these corners, you'll see I have put some white glue. And why I'm using white glue is because I needed to seal this corner so that resin doesn't go through. I didn't want to use silicone. Silicone is harder to clean. The good thing is with white glue, it will hold, and if needed, I can peel off in the areas I don't like. You see how it's flowing in? It means that's how resin would have gone in. When the canvas was made, it wasn't sealed well, and I don't start looking for sealant, so I thought of an easy, inexpensive way to do that, and in a way that, because we are doing lots of white on white, we won't see that a little later on. So let's start by putting our Mod Podge for the corners. The other thing I'll do, I may not be speaking through, is putting beads on the side. Let me show you. On the parts that we have this glue, I'm just going to pour out some beads like that. Just have beads at the corners, no ceremony. Something not straight or anything, just to add to our board. Not symmetrical, just like that. And then we're going to have resin on them to hold them more, but in the meantime they will be held like that. So I'll do that all around, so that later on when you wonder, hey, what did Juliet do? That's what I'm going to do. And then on these corners, 4 corners, I'm going to use Mod Podge. I'll show you how to create the corners before we start with the big resin work. My pieces are laid down in how they are going to end up, so that I can space out where I'm putting the next thing, which is the fabric on the corners, using Mod Podge. And check the card above. I've showed you other projects where we've used Mod Podge as a sealant, but this time we're using it to give my fabric shape. I could have done resin, but I think it's going to be less messy and easier for me to do this step first, then I come in with resin, instead of using resin as the mod. But using resin also is an option. I have scrunched up the fabric like this for the corner, and I'm just now going to, I've mixed here Mod Podge and water, because even though it's runny, it's okay. I just want it to stiff enough and dry enough. Resin itself is going to do the rest after, and you will see, but it's just for this initial part. So I'm going to just make it wet, not necessarily soaking, but enough to allow it to give me some form. And so I'm just going to sort of dip it. And the good thing with Mod Podge, it dries clear. It might be cloudy, just a little, but clear enough that we will still see the color of our fabric. Okay. I'm going to squeeze it out because I don't need it dripping. Let's do it on this side that I was holding. Then I'm going to squeeze it out, and I try not to mess the rest of the board. And so when I squeeze it out like that, and I'm now going to bring it to this corner where I want it to rest. And I know, yes, I did beads all the way, but I'd rather have the beads there and then they are not seen than wish I had put them and then they are not there, you know. So that's what I'm going to do. See how I'm doing it? I'm just placing it down, and because it's wet, it's also easier to maneuver, more malleable compared to when it's dry. So if I had tried to do this before resin, and now because I'm not doing anything too neat, I'm just going to weigh down with the marbles I showed you, just so that it gives it some shape, so that now when it dries, one, because it's Mod Podge, it's going to hold a little onto the board. And then because I'm not putting it over the frame, because I don't want resin to flow over the frame, because it's on the inside, later on it will just make it easier. See, I don't even need to put too many of this. It's just giving it a nice, interesting look that's not neat, like that. And so now it will dry, it will be scrunched up, and I'll do that on all four corners, and then we continue from there. This is how they look now in all the corners, like this. And because the placement, I didn't want to hold down the ones that need to be upright for the 3D effects before I put the fabric, so that I can see how far it will reach. Now I'm going to hold down these ones that I need to be upright, and I'm going to do that with this one that's a little far. And check how easy it is to move my phone camera back and forth as I need, because of how easy it is to use my Endochron stand plus tripod. So check the card above on that. It makes ease of movement for me. So let me show you how I'm going to hold this up before I do the resin. I wanted to show you that even without holding this down, it can stand on its own. I've tied these down so that they don't get resin, and later I'll show you how. I'll just tie them up so that they don't get resin. You see, but you see how wobbly it is? I don't want it to do that or to fall in resin when I'm working with it. And so I'd rather take precaution now than deal with that. I could have used UV resin, but because these are a little heavy and it will take less time, I decided to use glue gun, and I tried to use the clear ones instead of the cloudy white. So then I'm not going to try camouflage that. So you see what I'm telling you, it's already standing, but I want it to do it to stand more firmly so that it doesn't move with when I start to mobilize to move the resin. And the good thing is, if it doesn't stay the way I want, I can always move it. That's why I like what I like about the glue gun. The glue I can always move. See, like these pieces I can remove, but now it's not affecting anyone. Later on I will tie this up, I'll show you, and just hold them up so that, because I've tied these together and I don't want them to get resin. So I'm just going to hold them up away from resin with some thread, hold them up, and then I'll show you how we're going to use it. I'm going to do something similar with the cuffs. Okay, let me show you. And this is the advantage of Decor. I can just move it back and forth and it doesn't affect my filming. So I want to put it here. Okay. I'm just going to use glue. And firmly just put it down, because we want this to have that 3D effect. So I'm just going to put them down because I want it to hold down like that, so I want it to dry like that. And remember, resin is a glue, so it will also now help this piece now stay in place. And that's what we are using resin as a media for glue, but also as a decorative. Okay, so I think I need to add some more. Okay, I think I need to add some more here. Right, and then I'll do that for all the other pieces here. And then we'll continue now with resin. And now they are stuck up, the ones that I need to be like this. And you will see once we have it upright why we want it to just have this 3D effect on the wall. We don't need to glue down the others because they won't move much with resin. These are the ones that are the ones I was worried. And then I'm just going to tie up this the way I told you, upright with thread, and I'll show you just before I begin using resin on the piece. So this is really more of framing, using glue, resin as a glue and resin for framing these pieces. It's now hard, fully hard. And so I'll just pick out the marbles that were helping. And see what I was telling you, it dries clear. So you can see the actual color of what you put the Mod Podge. So now we'll just pick the marbles and move them out. I've remembered the other reason I was using Mod Podge instead of resin is because I think the marbles will attach to the resin, because resin attaches to glass, and Mod Podge, you can see they're just coming out. So I don't have to deal with having to come and remove them before it cures and then you spoil what you're already doing. And that's what I was telling you, to think through the process so that you don't give yourself extra work. And so if you can do a process before while you're thinking through the whole, then you've helped yourself in the process. Check the card above on the video I shared with you on how I do my crafting process from A to Z. And now, because it's already hard, I am not going to dunk or put too much resin on it, because I don't want resin to pull like in these small places. I'm just sort of going to just use my fingers and just make sure I just touch it so that even when it flows, it's not too much, but it's covered enough not to get dust, so that it has a glossy finish. I wish it would stay with this matte finish, but then it's going to get dust over time, so it's still better to just put a layer of resin on it. This is what I meant when I said I was holding these up by a thread, both of them, because I don't want them to get resin, and I'll show you at the end why. Okay, filled up all of it, the whole place. This one, even after using the glue gun, it was coming apart, and I had already put resin, so there was no way we could use UV resin or glue gun again, so I had to put this paper bag with marbles on it, and then when it cures, I'm going to remove, at least the paper won't stick onto the resin, especially if I remove early enough. So that's how it looks. So we'll cover it. This is how it looks now, all cured, but not on the wall yet. So please stay to see how it looks when it's on the wall I'm really, really loving it. You know, when we put the white color pigment, I'm liking that we did, because it gives, look at this, it gives this other textured look. So it's not just a plain clear on these artifacts and the beads and the jewelry, this African jewelry, you see. And then it tapers, because not the whole place has that color. I love that we still have this 3D effect. And these ones, and these ones, I love how even with the resin, look at this, it still has the fabric textured look. And even when part of the resin flowed in here, it looks really natural. You know, it's not too structured. It's so abstract. I love that. I love that. And it's also African fabric. We call it the Maasai fabric, so it works out with the rest of the jewelry here. I can't wait for us to see how it looks when it's on the wall. So please stay on. If you've loved this, please subscribe and press the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. And also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Juliet Migu Inspires, because that's where you really see more of this more often, or the tidbits, you know, like maybe at the client's house. God bless you, Barakatele. See you on my next video.